Hi Shazad, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. I saw your presentation, your talk, your panel.
Thank you.
Really impressed by it. I really appreciate that.
Sure.
Could you maybe, for the people that don't know you yet, but I think that's not the case, but could you maybe share a bit who you are and what you're doing?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Stephen. I really appreciate that. My name is Shazad Azam, as you know. I'm the owner of IDA Global, International Design Associates. We started very young, if you remember, in the olden days as an interior design company.
Yeah, the early days.
And today, we do architecture, we do lighting, we do signage, we do landscaping. We're diversified into all these sectors. We have a global footprint. We have 6 offices globally. So it's a lot of fun. Getting older and wiser as we go along.
I know the feeling.
Yeah.
Oh, how cool is that? How cool is that? So your firm is quite established,
Yes.
right? I think that's why Index also invited you, and many
Yeah,
other
yeah.
platforms, right? Because of
Yeah.
your expertise.
Yes.
So that is, I don't think there's much discussion about that. I'd like to get a little bit your view on a certain things, right? So where do you see that the market stands now, and where do you think it will be moving towards in the oncoming years, looking at all the developments, especially in the Middle East region, which are happening?
Sure. Look, so for us, one of the reasons that I'm actually heavily involved in Index, for example, right, is that I used to be an advisory board member, and one of the reasons that I've chosen to spend time is that you can have the best designs in the world, but if you don't have the technical knowledge of how to deliver the project with products like Berwick or whatever, then you're not going to achieve your designs, So that's why I think it's important for us and my designers to spend time and learning things like that. And that's why we work with Berwick in the very early days, right?
Yeah.
We understand the product, how it can be applied, and everything else. When it comes to the industry and your question, look, for us, the industry is becoming more bespoke. We had a conversation this morning about quiet luxury. So everything's more tailored in terms of what you're doing today. If you look at, for example, in hospitality, where we are quite big, you're getting a huge rise in two certain areas. One is branded residences. We have a residential project, but it's branded. So you as an owner can go in and you can buy a project which is done to the brand standards, but it's also done to a very high quality. So the standards of the project are guaranteed. So your investment is safe. Okay. Secondly, on the commercial side, you have a huge rise of what we call lifestyle projects, which are more flexible in their design. People want more individuality. They want more expressiveness. They want more expression. You mentioned something about color earlier on. I think we'll pick it up, a little bit later on. But it's so important to be able to tailor your space to the way you want it. Gone are the days when everything was like they mentioned earlier this morning, like beige. On beige, we call it Bob. This is a very neutral design. Doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
So nowadays we have a rise of a lot of these lifestyle properties that you've coming through. I remember, like during COVID, one of the few brands in Emirates I was growing was Rove Hotels.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, Rove Hotel is a very basic hotel. But they put
yeah.
so much effort into their public areas.
Yeah.
They customize it.
Yeah.
They make the lobby like a living room.
Nice.
It's nice.
They have a nice.
For a simple product, you enjoy it actually. Whereas, like if you go back to the olden days, the Holiday Inn or a Novotel was boring.
Yeah.
But now all these companies have made all these projects much more interesting. So when you do a Holiday Inn now, we have a Gen 5 coming in. Gen 5 is much more unique. You no longer check in at a desk, you check in at the bar.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So,
and is there a philosophy behind it that they want?
it's basically to say that it's more lifestyle driven. They want you to spend less time in the room, more time in the lobby, and everything should be unique. It's like everything about unique location. We see a huge rise in what we call collection properties, where basically the brands are tailoring themselves to each individual owner. You might be an owner that wants to do something, let's say, in a very strong European design. But the brand doesn't allow it. Correct? So the brand does not allow you to have that individual touch. Okay, we have a collection property. You can have autograph collection, tribute collection, something like that. To come along.
Okay, it's interesting. So the whole scene is changing in that sense.
Yeah. So you really have people are moving away from traditional Marriotts. So it'll be like an autograph collection by Marriott, a tribute by Marriott. So we just launched a project about a month ago in Dubai. It's called Affini Residence by Tribute. So Affini is the client's project name, and by Tribute is Marriott's name. So they marry the two things together. So the way the client was able to give a really strong sense of their own thing, and then they went to a branding agency to put the brand together with strong colors, bright colors, and that was the first time they launched a tribute residence in Emirates, So you can see how the scene is completely changing. I used to go to a hotel before, very corporate look. No, nothing is corporate anymore. Unless you go into upscale luxury, there still is that sense that there is a certain expectation of a Four Seasons Ritz-Carlton. But most of the brands are much more lifestyle driven.
And how does it impact, let's say, also your way of working, right? Because if it's more bespoke, right, that will have impact on your teams, because if it's more standard,
So the way we are dealing with it, and we've been dealing with it for a while. Back, I would say, like when we first started the company, you might have a whole studio, might have a couple of design directors that run the whole studio, right?
Yeah.
Now we started putting together individual teams. So we find a strong design director, put a team around him. From senior designer to mid-level designer, junior, FF&E person for the furniture, even technical designers to support them, and they're on their own projects. So because each design director has a different style. Some design directors are really good at the Arabic-inspired design. Some are really good at transitional design. Some are really good at classic design. Some are out there, boutique designers, and that's why like our office in Thailand has grown so much, because the designers in Thailand are very unique in terms of their boutique ability to put lifestyle design together. So it works really well. If we have a project which is 5-star luxury, has to have a bit more of a strong sense of local identity. Okay, we'll run it from our Bahrain office, because normally we'll have an Arabic background person. They'll be able to fuse that modern and Arabic culture together. There was a question earlier this morning. They said, "How do you make a local context?" You need to have someone that understands the context. I can't expect somebody in another country to understand the context of Riyadh.
No. You cannot read it on the internet.
You can't do that, right? There are companies that are successful at doing it, but I feel like invest in your team to have the right people in the place. That's why we have to have a diversified design, I mean, my team could do any type of design.
Interesting. So basically you allocate, you've got different teams that can tailor for this bespoke trend.
And then you have a whole kind of operational arm of the business which does all the CGIs, 3Ds, BIM, for example. Revit is a big part of our industry, big part of our industry now. So we do that as well. So it's interesting.
Okay. And in which areas is your biggest market now? Is it now in Saudi or Dubai?
Globally speaking, right now, I would say that from Bahrain we grew into Saudi Arabia quite a lot, and obviously there's such a big demand in Saudi Arabia. So right now Saudi is big. Emirates is growing. It's funny because when we first started the business, we used to be in the Eastern and Western Province. Okay, that's where the business used to be.
I remember
and then slowly the business went to Riyadh. And now we're seeing that the Eastern Western provinces started coming up again.
Really?
It's almost like Riyadh learned.
Do you know why it's coming up?
Because look, when the new government came into power, I believe, they just sucked all the resources back to the capital.
Right.
But after a while, they understood that, the capital can't cope with everything. I mean, don't quote me, the population is about 9 million maybe. It's a traffic jam. And their target was 12 million, but they don't have the infrastructure. So they realized, well, we can still do work from Jeddah, we can still do work from Dammam. So why not let those cities also prosper at the same time? And the Jeddah and these places have always been the gateway, right? For Muslims. So always there's a hospitality market there.
For sure.
But we're seeing a huge rise in business in those locations. We're seeing a huge rise in UAE. UAE is a huge rise in business, in terms of that.
And in terms of, let's say, you see it in hospitality, that's what you're saying?
So our focus is hospitality, but honestly, we do workplace, we do healthcare, we do schools, mosques, everything else like that as well.
So that's also quite diverse, right? So if you do hospitality, hospitals, it's totally different.
Yes.
So how do you cope with that? Do you have special teams for that? Because it's different specialty, I
Yeah.
guess.
So you have some teams which are more commercial. Okay, some teams are more geared up to do 3-star hotels. So commercial design is commercial design everywhere else. The good thing about having the ability to do these kind of projects is that it really ensures that we don't just excuse the expression, arty-farty designers. Our designs mean something, and they work, and they get delivered. So I was with a client earlier, and I said, if at the end of the day, I can't add value to the client's bottom line, then I haven't done my job properly. Why? The client won't come back to me again. They'll say, they're great designers, but the design doesn't work. So my job is not to do great design, but also make sure that it adds value to the client's bottom line. It works, right? So for example, like when we did the hotel together, right? Let's say the last Moonbig hotel, we needed the Bovik acoustic treatment because it functions better design. It's a huge lobby, right? The echo and reverberation is too much. So you should understand to the client, yes, the product is worth such amount of money, but your clients will be comfortable.
Yeah.
There'll be no echoes. That's luxury for you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There are times and places we do that. Like we spoke earlier about workplace, right? If I have a workplace project, I would probably push the client to go and use a Bovic treatment on the ceilings. Why? I can go for an open plan ceiling.
Yeah, and then
right?
Concrete everything.
Complete flexibility. Do whatever you want.
And
if lifestyle is the trend, it works, right?
Yeah.
So I can see a requirement where that works really well for you.
Okay. Right. Interesting. So how do you foresee for yourself and your company, right? So the company, how old is the company now? I think something like
14 years.
14 years.
So 14 years.
Well established in the market,
Yes,
different regions. You have, I think, 5 or 3?
5 offices.
5 offices.
And
right?
the aspiration is to open 4 more in the next 18 months.
Okay.
Okay. A lot of the
And 18 months, that's quite a short time frame.
Yeah.
So
look, the problem we're having now, and Ideas benchmarked itself as a go-to brand in hospitality. I'll give you a small example. Like we talked about architecture earlier on, and we run that from our Pakistan location. We have a lot of work in Pakistan also,
Right.
but we don't have the right personnel to have some of the projects, right, to do those projects. Okay, so we have a couple of directors that work from Egypt for us. So we said, why not put a business around that, right? Let's have more people in Egypt. Okay, so it's really support our business.
Yeah.
And then I was with somebody from Marriott, and we said, look, I'm putting an office in Cairo. And he said, you're in Cairo? Okay, I need you to speak to our Marriott guy there.
Yeah.
So there's a phone call online. He said, listen, I have 2 projects for you. I'm like, can you just give me like a couple of months? And that's because they trust you.
Yeah.
The relationship is there.
Yeah.
They want to work with you. And we've built that brand value, all that sort of thing. So we're in a very comfortable position. All we're going to do is we're going to hold on to the values that are important to us, what makes us tick, and not go way too much far from that, right? And in the last 3 years, we focused a lot on PIF projects, which are more government-led projects, which are quite complicated structures, great fun to do. You feel like you're adding value, but our DNA is working with private clients. Clients, private developers, and I mean big developers also, right? But we are very good at adding value to the process of the whole thing, working hand in hand with them, advising them how to do things and everything else. And that's where our core of our business is, relationships. Right? And going back to the relationship.
And that is in this region quite important, right? Because that's where it's
exactly.
Interesting. Just coming back, let's say more some, I would say, tactical, practical kind of things. When you talk about design, right? Okay, you guys are the specialists, so we learn a lot from you, right?
Yes.
What, for example, I heard you in the talking about minimalistic design. You gave a nice example that a client came to you and said, give your advice, you should take out this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right, in order to make
I
it
said 20% cost.
Exactly, right. So that is a practical approach. How do you, for example, go about with colors, right? So from a Boeing perspective, right, we deal with acoustics, that's clear, right? We can explain it, but colors is an important part which we feel is sometimes overlooked a bit, right?
100%.
For ceilings and those kind of things. How do you, in your design, how your designers use the tool of colors in your projects?
So look, color is very, very important, and I believe a lot of designers coming to the industry now, they don't really understand the strength and the value of a color. Okay, I was very, very young, and I designed the reception of my office in London. Okay, and I decided to do the one wall, okay, in red with a logo on it, and the rest was all grey and white. Okay, after about a few months, the MD came to me and he said, my secretary is always really stressed,
Right.
like passionate, and she's like very highly strung, I don't understand what happened to her, After about 6 months, we tried to understand what the behavior was. It was that red wall. It was that emotional response to anything that she said. I mean, he's not an easy guy to work with anyway, but her response was even more, emotional, right? And so we changed it back to the corporate grey color, and believe it or not, next couple of months she calmed down.
Okay.
And that's the first time I learned, wow, colors have an effect on your emotions. Right? We have an emotional connection to colors. Okay? Like architects generally, and I'm an architect who's a minimal-minded architect, right? We're pretty safe with colors. Okay? You go to my wardrobe, it's blue, white, black every now and then, and that's it. These are my favorite colors, blue, everybody can tell. I have one pink shirt for Think Pink Day, once a year, and that's it, So men are generally quite safe, in colors, and you often find that the female workforce that we have are more creative,
Yeah.
That's why a lot of our FF&E designers are ladies.
Okay.
But they're able to bring color into the project,
Yeah.
right? But I think if we can harness color more in design, we can really do a lot better. And look, in our wellness design and in our healthcare design, color plays a huge part.
Okay.
We are never allowed to use a loud color in wellness.
Yeah.
Everything is soft, lavender, greens. Why? Because these colors are healing colors,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
So in a way, we should understand that.
Yeah.
You know, I unfortunately feel that these days our color in a room is beige.
Yeah.
It's easy. It's a backdrop, right? I wish I was brave enough to explore with colors. You know, I remember when I was younger, I was studying architects like Louis Barragan, Mexican famous architect. Wow, his buildings be pink and blue and all this. I mean, these are people that are strong expressionists, you know, they can really play with color, okay? I don't have the strength, I'm not that type of designer, I'm a safe architect.
Yeah.
Blue and white is my thing to go to.
Yeah.
But I think you're 100% right.
Yeah.
Color is such a strong tool in interior design, and we underutilize it.
Yeah. And I like the example which you give, because that is basically spot on,
Yes.
right? The influence of a color and what it can do for a person, right?
person,
So I
yeah.
like really, it's a really striking
So
example.
we learned it the hard way. She got upset for 6 months. We changed the color.
And I think we have seen many more examples,
Yeah.
right? And that's why we feel it's important to do something with the colors. So we have introduced our color line, right?
Yeah.
And step by step we're rolling it out here on the index. We're moving also to Saudi in the index. We're going to roll out there as well, where we work together with a color designer, because it's a real trade. Often it's seen, okay, I'll choose the colors, but it's really, there's a philosophy and even a theory behind it, we found. So, for example, for hospitals, we'll be coming out later on also with very practical steps people can take. More than welcome to work together on things in the future where our designer can help you out in those things. But I like the example, and I think you're spot on that topic. Color is becoming more and more an issue, especially I think if you go in the making a link what you said with bespoke. Then it can become something a bit daring, and how do you go about it?
But it's more relevant, right? If I'm trying to do a project with more personality, more individuality, color is the best way to express that, right? So recently we got a phone call from Kadir.
Okay.
You're working with Seven already, right?
Exactly.
So Kadir is like the sister company. They do all the. So they said, look, can you give us projects which are our style of projects?
Right.
So I said, which style of project? I said, look, we're a water park.
Yeah.
We're water parks. We're Disney parks.
Yeah.
So the projects need to have the same energy, you know, and level of, okay? So we started going through our projects, and we realized that actually the 3 to 4 star projects have that energy. Workplace will have energy. But when you go to upscale luxury, the colors are there, but more in earthy tones,
Right.
in a more sophisticated way, right? There's color in everything we do, right?
Yeah.
But right now, I think it's really a trend that it's going to grow. I think you're going to find more color use, more stronger language use, because we're in that expressive environment, you know. We spoke earlier this morning. I spoke about that how I feel the next generation is rejecting luxury. Their idea of luxury is being different.
Yeah, interesting point you made there.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so being different means how will I express myself? They might wear a bright color. You know, they might want to be in a space which has a bright color in it, right? So I think it's a very important part of our design philosophy, and I think it's good that you're working with specialist designers, because I said I've been in the industry a long time now. I'm an old man, but still I don't understand colors. It's really an art that you have to practice, and then I don't understand the psychological effect of colors on people. Right?
Absolutely.
It's a big effect on people.
Now it's funny because we're working with the color design from Belgium.
Okay.
And that's what she exactly says. And with architect, they have a lot of knowledge, right? But when it comes to colors, often it's sometimes a bit of a okay, you know, which is understandable, right? And there we are stepping in, because I think that is an opportunity, which we can step into. Right?
Sure. So for me, my interest in your product is like, what's the next big thing for Bowick? What's your next big idea? What are you going to go into? What is it you're going to do that you think that, you know what, this product's really interesting, this is what we're doing as a company? So tell me a little bit about that, please.
Okay. So I think we are now launching the color concept, right? So that is something we launch it now, and that's something we're going to be rolling out, and it will affect different aspects of the design industry, right? When we talk about hospitality, hospitals, entertainment, and those kind of things. We'll work out a color concept that will support them. Besides that, our philosophy is basically how can we help our customer in the best way possible. Right? Often everybody says, my product is the best in quality. I assume, I don't think my competitors, whoever, have bad products, because they all have good products. But we find that what we focus on is on the service level, all the other things you need to complete a project. Right? It's not only having a good product, but you need to have the product on time. You need to be able to give the good technical advice in order to assure that the deadlines are being made, right, are being achieved. I think you mentioned something as well in your talk. So, especially in the Middle East region, we want to improve on that, right? We want to be able to help our customers in the best way possible. Besides that, we see, of course, a topic which is efficiency, which in Europe is a topic which is quite clear, right? Because time is money. Here, time is money as well, and we're working on new systems that will make it even more efficient, more easier, less super skill dependent. So that the end quality will be more assured. Right. So that is something we're working on as well.
So you just mentioned something. Just a question for us, because I remember when we worked together for a few questions about the super skill part. So you remember one of the problems that we had was that how will we maintain this product if something goes wrong?
I think that's a very important question, right? Because it is not a normal ceiling, for example, where you can just put the paint on it or whatever it is and it's done, right? So we have developed that part as well, and we're developing it even more. Let's say our product, for example, can easily be repaired because it can be sanded easily. The other products which we're sanding is a bit difficult, and even our products you can repaint it now. Right? So we have a special acoustical coat. So if, for example, for whatever reason, in a renovation, you don't want to take everything down, but you just want to have a different color or a fresh colored paint, we have a special coating.
So it doesn't affect the acoustic rating?
Exactly.
So you can repaint it now, and it's fine?
With our special acoustical coat. So
very
those are the, I would say, practical.
It makes it flexible.
Yeah, it makes it flexible because at the end of the day, you don't want to get stuck with a system which you specified and applied,
and then you can't change it.
And then you can't change anymore. And then it becomes really a big cost. So those are innovations which we already implemented. And
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well done. Okay.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, good.